When we first went to the Grace House, we had the pleasure of talking to a young man named Corbin. He took us back into the Grace House's little chapel room, and he played the piano for us. Now, after only a few minutes of talking to Corbin, we could quickly figure out that he was a genius. He said this one thing: texting is like telepathy. I say something, or I think something, and you understand it without ever speaking a word. We talked, and he told us about his high school career. He said he was in the band. That was the only reason he went to school, and he played every instrument. The band director would point to him and say, "Hey, you've got 2 weeks to learn this instrument, there you go." And Corbin would do it. We started talking about our high schools and schools in America. We were taught STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We're never taught to, organically learn. We're taught to memorize and answer tests. Corbin made this good point. He said, pretty soon, Americans won't be able to think for themselves. We won't be able to think, but we'll remember. And, it was things like that you could really tell Corbin was just such an enlightened person. I actually have a video of him playing the piano for us. Talking to Corbin really made me appreciate being a part of this project and being able to go to the Grace House.
America.
One of the richest, most vile countries in the world.
A place where jobs sprout like skyscrapers from the ground during the Industrial Revolution.
Where everyone is equal and no child is left behind.
But what about the 3 million people who are homeless each and every year? Do they live in the same America?
Though most are only homeless for a few weeks, others have been homeless for so long they've stopped counting how many endless nights that have been spent trying to find a place where they can rest their heads.
We force them out of their cradles and into the cold, frigid air.
With nothing but a backpack full of socks and their families to keep warm.
The answer is no. We strip men of their dignity.
Women of their own bodies. We feed them drugs and they call them addicts.
You put your loose money in their cups and you feel good about yourself. But what you don't know is your change isn't changing anything.
What? You think the homeless deserve everything they go through? I don't. Just imagine, a woman put out on her own because the 2 men who loved her refused to support her. She has a 10-year-old daughter. A 10-year-old daughter she hardly gets to see because she doesn't have a home. But she was different. She had a job. She worked 12-hour shifts at the factory. But the bus only runs from 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening, and she still had a mile to walk. What if I told you she was a meth addict? Would you help her? Or would you walk away? Inside, you'd walk away. What if it was your friend? She was an addict, but now she's clean. She didn't have a fancy rehab center. It was just her on the streets by herself. I know more than just her name. I know her story. I know her.
I am woman. We are women.
Women are meant to nurture, care for, and supply hope. But how can they do that when 65% of all Americans with families are women? Stripped of their femininity. Unable to provide because they can't even provide for themselves. And then there was one broken down on the back of society because she wanted to be left. She wanted to live on the street. She wanted to lose her right to be a mother to the little hands grabbing at the tatters of her body because it was her fault. Wash away the marks of men after being reduced, reused, and recycled.
over and over again. She gets to live in her little green tin when Hit or Ree decides it's too good for Tent City. Sit down on the sidewalk to rest your weary bones when you're told to scram. And your double D's are too much underneath the 34B support system. Family, your neighbors that suffer for the same food as you. Because Starvation Army only gives you hope for 90 days. But women are meant to nurture, care for, and supply hope. We are women.
I am woman.
So tell us your story.
I was 11 years old when I was first homeless. My stepdad had just left us, and my mom was really depressed. She got into drugs and alcohol, and that's all she depended on. It got to the point where she couldn't keep a job or a house. And I remember one day her telling me to get some clothes for me and my brother and sister, me and my sister, and to go put it in the car. I didn't think nothing about it at the time. I just thought we were going to go stay at one of my aunt's house. We drove around for a while, and we went to one of our friend's house, and then to our aunt's. And it got really late, so we got in the car and left. I thought we were going home. We weren't. We slept in the car that night, and about a week or two on, until I called my grandmother, and she made my mom bring me and my sister and her to stay there. We stayed there about a year and a half. My mom couldn't handle it anymore. They were fighting all the time. So she moved out and went to stay with one of her friends. My grandmother told her she couldn't have us back until she got a job and a home for us to be in. It seemed that she was getting better, but on the inside she wasn't. She had a house for us and she had a job, so my sister went to stay with her. I stayed back with my grandma for a month or so, and then I went to with my mom. The time I went back with my mom, she was pregnant and she was due for my brother. She had my brother, and then she got stressed. She just couldn't handle it, so she went back into the drugs, into the alcohol, and it started all over again. We didn't have a house, but thankfully my aunt let us stay with her. We stayed with her for about a year, and then she decided to move down to South Carolina, so we went with her. While we were down there, we stayed with one of her friends, and I was getting verbally and physically abused, and I couldn't handle it anymore. So I ran away and stayed with my friends while I was down there until my mom came and got me, and we got an apartment. And the apartment, we had nothing. We had no furniture, no food, no electricity. We had nothing at all. And I remember days where I'd have to go down to Dollar General and steal food from my brother and sister because I didn't want them to starve. I couldn't let them do that. And I couldn't handle it anymore. So I called my aunt and had her come and get me 3 months ago. And ever since then, I just felt better. I worry every day about my brother and sister because I can't be there with them. It hurts me inside, but it was better for me. and just knowing that they might end up homeless again. And I cannot do anything 'cause I'm not there to help them. But everyone that's homeless, it's not always their fault. They're just going through things and they need time to help fix it.
Kayla is a St. Stephen's High School student. She's in my Block 2 beginning theater class. And when she found out we were working with the homeless, she came to me privately and asked if she could help. She brought in clothes and other items for us to take to the Grace House, and she shared her story with me. And I asked her if she felt like maybe she would be brave enough to share it with you tonight. She asked her uncle and talked to her family, and she got permission to share her personal story with you tonight. And that's very, very brave of you. And what a gift you've given us, Michaela. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I see them, dressed in rags, polluting the streets, trashing my city. Now I truly see them, covered with codes, burned by fate, hardened in their survival. They laugh and cry, know of love and loss, live and die, just like any other person. Talk to them, listen to their stories. That could be you if fate had not been kind. I was blind, but that veil has been lifted. The world is not black and white. Come see the gray.
Six to 11. Morning. Who would care if I didn't wait for this cold, dry bench? I have no family. No one to care for me. For each person that passed, I'm more of an obstacle than a human being. I can hear their thoughts now. Bum, drug addict, useless, dumb, and hopeless. The more I hear them words, the more I begin to believe in the meaning behind them. Damn! I missed the bus. Now I have to bear another endless hour of this cold weather. When you see me walking, or just sitting on the side of the street, trying to catch my breath from walking all morning, I just want you to know, I'm not a bum. I'm not hopeless. I'm just another human being, down and in the dumps. So hold your hand out and help me get back up.
Afternoon. Home is the Grace House, where every day it's a place that I can go to. A place where I'm no longer invisible until 9 to 3. The decisions that I have to make after the clock strikes 3. Where am I going to go? What am I going to eat? And how am I going to survive? When the world is the predator and I am the prey.
Night. I shiver, searching for a place to sleep that isn't occupied by the roots of foliage. Using my breath to heat myself, unaware of what could happen to me when I close my eyes. I always ask myself, will I be arrested, ransacked, killed? Thoughts that I have while I trudge through the cold days, from one location to another. Destination unknown. But wherever I do end up, I want it to be better than this. But how do I get there?
Hope.
Hope is what keeps me going. Hope is what makes me believe that tomorrow could be better than today, even though it might not be.
Time to sleep. When I wake, repeat 6 to 11 again.
What do you really know about the homeless? Do you know what it's like to have to keep walking? Because if we stay in one place, we may get arrested. If we take a break, we may get arrested. So we walk, and we walk, and we walk while carrying bags that contain the only few things we own. You kick us out of the little woods in your neighborhood because we make you feel uncomfortable. We make you feel uncomfortable. While you sleep in your heated houses and your warm beds, we're just trying to find a place to sleep. Now where do I go? I have no home. The shelter has no room for me. No one wants me. You don't know anything until you've experienced it. Until you've felt what I felt. Until you've seen what I've seen.
Say home. It's where the heart is. My heart is in music. And through music, I want to give these people that I met at the Grace House a home. I wrote a couple of songs that I thought would best represent these people. The first is for Katie, a former St. Stephen's High School student. When I met her, she was timid and small, and she didn't look like she belonged there at all. This one's for her. Baby, it's cold outside. I don't know where I'll sleep tonight. And everywhere I go, I am turned away. I don't mean to be a burden. I'd rather just get out of your way. I've been up, I've been down, so many states of mind I can't count. I'm involved with a man I don't love. I need him to protect me. That's why I'll never leave until I've got 4 walls around me. This next one's for James. James is a homeless man who volunteers his time to run the Grace House. When we went to clean and we were vacuuming and shampooing carpets and running around with cans of Lysol in our back pockets, he was sitting in an armchair reading. I thought, what would he be thinking? This one's for him. I give back what I don't get. Safety, food, and warmth. And all the books in the world couldn't take me away. I'll always give up my time to give them a place to stay. I've been up, I've been down, so many states of mind I can't count. I want to help out the people like me. God will always be here for me, and that's why I'll never leave until I've got 4 walls around me. This last bit's for a couple that I met there. Their names are Brittany and Steven. And they're not from here. When they came in to visit people that they knew, they were stolen from and stranded. They can't afford their $300 bus fare back to Texas. I admire their relationship because they've been together all this time no matter what, and they protect each other. This one's for them. We're not from around here, been stranded for months now. We keep each other warm in the tent we share till it's taken away. Our bus fare is too expensive. Texas will just have to wait. I've been up, I've been down, so many states of mind I can't count. We'll stick together through the good and the bad. I love her and she loves me, and that's all I'll ever need until I've got four walls around me.
I have a personal account. My experience at the Grace House was like no other. I saw the people that I would judge passing the streets and stuff. I learned about them, and now my point of view is different. I met a 4-year-old kid. His name was David. He was eating lunch with his family. He was a happy little boy. I walked up to him. He started talking to me. He invited me to sit down with him. It was pretty neat. I liked his eyes. We had a pretty good time, and so he had to leave. I didn't want him to go. I actually wanted to take him home. I came. As I saw him, I imagined there must be millions of kids living the way he is. And since that day, I just can't stop thinking about him. I lit up a torch that day, and I'm going to carry it on. And I'm going to help the homeless in any way I can. Thank you.
I'm a beginning theater student who was adopted into play production for their outreach program. And I was inspired to help after hearing Mrs. Rice talk about the Grace House. I went last Thursday to help them clean, and then Sunday to bring them a potluck and have conversations with them. While I was there, I met a couple named Brittany and Steven. Talking to them, I found out that we had some things in common. I found out Brittany was adopted. I also was adopted. I found out Steven worked in construction. My dad also worked in construction. When I asked where they could live anywhere, they said either Texas or Oklahoma, because that's where the construction jobs are. I asked if they were staying in the Salvation Army, and Brittany told me no. Her ex's brother had slit her throat, and her PTSD prevents her from being in large crowds. I then found out they both have children. Brittany told me she has a 5-year-old stuck with her ex, and Steven has 9 children who are also stuck with exes who abuse them. He then told me about when one of the little ones went to go hug an ex, she pushed her into a hot stove and she got 3rd-degree burns all up her arm. He then told me when the ex also didn't want a little boy anymore, so she sent him off to Utah, and Steven had to go to Utah and retrieve him and return him to the ex. As I left Grace House, It hurt me to know that this couple that I felt I connected with and have already been through so much pain and suffering had to sleep in the cold.
I stood there and listened. Listened to all the whispers about the people who have nothing, about the people who live on the streets, about the people who are neglected, rejected, and judged.
What do gossipers know? What do they know about these people? Do they know what begging means?
Do they know what an empty belly and a broken heart is? Do they know what sleeping in the cold really feels like? And have they ever felt nothingness?
They only know how to insult, how to judge, and how to be ignorant. I met a man who was homeless. In the furniture capital of the world, he lost his job and his home went with him.
How easily could this happen to anyone?
And he won't even go to his sister who has a home and a job and a family because he doesn't want to burden her. And she won't reach out to him. Now as a homeless man, he helps his brothers and sisters in God, and he is respected. He is respected because he never loses hope. And he is respected because even though he has nothing, he still gives.
If anyone has this world's goods and sees his brother in need, but closes his eyes to his needs, how can God's love reside in him?
So as I stand here, listening,
looking at all of these people insulting their own kind,
I propose a question. What if we gave everyone a chance?
A chance to prosper and live a fulfilled life.
Because even if you have nothing, you have something to give.
Words are not enough. Words do not feed their empty stomachs. Words do not warm their tired souls. And words do not rest their oh so weary legs. You must act. If you are rich, then give. If you are poor, then listen. If you are cruel, then learn. Words whispered in prayer, eyes filled with pity, these things do not help. One meal, an old coat, a sock with a hole in it. These things given mean more than all the prayers, than all the tears, than all the pity on earth. Meet your words with actions. I should, I would, I could are useless.